is sponsored by the West Hill and Stevens PTOs. Today, all the questions will be based on education, and it's meant to be an educational and informative forum. There will be no rebuttals, and we ask everyone to stay on topic. Please hold, for the audience, please hold your applause until the end of the forum. Simple rules are as such. There will be a 2-minute opener for each candidate, followed by 4 minutes for each question. Questions will go in a serpentine-style format. Before the forum, there was a coin toss, and Mr. Vasel won the coin toss and will elect to go first. Following the question and answer period, there will be a brief time when the candidates will thank the audience for coming and introduce their candidates for Town Council and Board of Education. The whole forum is going to be recorded on Rock Hill Community TV, which is channel 14 on most cable services, AT&T channel 9, and it's on the web at the Rock Hill Community TV website, rhctv.org. And it'll be reshown multiple times for the election. So I'd like to start. Mr. Vasel, your opening. As for the rules, because you guys will be looking forward, I'm going to knock once when there's a minute left, and I'll knock twice when there's 30 seconds left of your time, and then I'll say your time is up. Whenever you're ready, yeah, Mr. Vasel.
The official knocker. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we meet to talk about the PTO and the education and the future of Rocky Hill. This is something I feel we cannot retreat from accountability and investment in education. Not when we know that failing to choose an effective K-12 education is the equivalent of choosing a diminished future for our children. Team Henry has a parent in every school on the Board of Education slate. I think that's very important because with a parent in every single school, we have a pulse on what's going on in the school system and we can address any issues quickly. It's also very important to know the commitment of my team in the Rocky Hill school system, and that's why their children are not in private or magnet schools, but every one of our members has their children in the Rocky Hill schools. No private schools, no magnet schools. Now tonight, as Joe alluded to, we are on a timer, and some questions I may not be able to answer all your questions as fully as I would like. If you feel like you need more information or you have a question of your own, please feel free to go to my website, henrysteam.com, click on the Facebook icon, and I can see if I can get you any follow-up questions and get you the answers you're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Mr. Moriarty.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Moriarty, those of you don't know me. I'm a lifelong resident of Rocky Hill. I'm a graduate of Rocky Hill High School. I graduated in 1977. I actually attended Center School here when it was a school before it was a town hall. This gym here before was a lot better now than it was back then. Education in this town is the main cog in the wheel of this community. We owe these kids, these children, the best education they can get out there so that when they get into their adult life and their choice or whatever they have for college, they can live their dream. Because without that, they're not going to get where they want to be. And it's getting harder and harder out there for graduates out of Rocky Hill High School to get into the colleges they want because it's so competitive out there. With the Board of Ed that we have in place right now, we have a good group of people there who are very dedicated into curriculum, very dedicated into procedures and how we're going to do stuff. We're moving forward with the high school. We'll be voting on that tomorrow night, get that up to the State Board of Ed so we can get that thing underway. Right now, the fire marshal is inspecting the prints for the sprinklers at West Hill, and we'll get that operating. I've done more for the schools in the 6 months that I've been mayor than they've done in the last 3-4 years. And I was involved in everything right there in them buildings, getting everything done on the gym floors, the bleachers, the finishing the infill of West Hill School when we had to come in and grind it this year. We're going to get an 88 bathroom in the lower part of Stevens School as soon as we're done with the roof that we're doing over here now. And we've also put the accessible windows into the second floor of the media center there / library at Stevens. And we'll keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Because of the serpentine format, Mr. Moriarty, you will get the first question. What are your plans to keep the high school renovation project on track?
Well, the biggest thing we have to do is make sure we stay on TDS. The thing with that there is when we told the voters, or asked asked the voters to vote for a referendum, and I think all of you did. We told them what they were going to get. We have to make sure that we get that. Okay? We're going to make sure that everything's on time. We have a great general contractor out there with ONG Industries. Okay? There is going to be some inconvenience out there to some of these students, and people have to understand that. Trying to renovate a school while it's occupied is a huge task, but it's capable, and we can do it. The thing is, we just got to make sure that our students are safe through this whole thing. Right? We have to make sure that they're not in construction areas. With the staff that we have as far as the building committee, which is real good, almost everybody on that building committee is from the construction background, that I think they will make sure that everything's on time and under budget. And right now, we're right there. And we're starting on time the way we want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Mr. Vasel, same question to you.
Thank you. The high school project is an opportunity to bring the community together to strengthen our education system. It's an opportunity to create a shared vision between educators, parents, families, and applying the decision-making process onto how the town supports the schools. I don't want to end up like the town of Weathersfield, where they're arguing over change orders and making the papers every time there is a change order. Under the town charter, we have a public building commission made up of professionals, people in the field, and it's with their recommendations that they've given us the opportunity to save money on the project. Presently, we've had 3 members of the Public Building Commission resign abruptly in the past few months. There seems to be some kind of gap between the Public Building Commission, the Town Council, and the Board of Education. As the mayor, I'll bridge that gap. I'll bring them together to make sure that this project is completed on time and under budget and pass all inspections. I'll be sure the students are met with the least amount of disruption during the project so they receive the same quality of education as the people before them. All the technology in the building, all the STEM technology, the Common Core handed down by the state, that's going to be maintained by a CIP, which I hopefully will talk about a little later, and kept up to the current standards. You know, we have a saying in the fire department, ladies and gentlemen, as I'm sure you're all aware by now that I'm a firefighter in town. And I end every meeting we have with Team Henry this way. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no I in team, and you won't find one in Henry either. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Okay, second question to you. Do you plan on cutting the education budget? And if so, what would you cut?
Okay. I'm not going to cut the education budget. And in my opinion, the education budget has been underfunded already. In 2001, the state per pupil expenditure I have, we were number 72 out of the 166 towns in the survey. 2010 and 2011, we are number 122 out of 166 towns in the survey. We started out in the lower 50th percentile, and now we're approaching the highest 75th percentile. We are one of the lowest towns in Connecticut. How do we compare in the DIRG? Well, the DIRG, if you don't know, is the District Reference Group, made up of 24 towns of similar size town population as Rocky Hill. We are in the lower 2/3. We're number 16 out of 24 in what we spend per student. Now, how does that affect us? Well, we budgeted for 140 students to go to magnet schools this year. Out of that, 195 went. That's 55 extra students that the town has to pay for. I'm going to make sure the schools are properly funded for the STEM guidelines, science, technology, engineering, math. I'm going to make sure the Common Core standards are properly funded. I'm also going to add 2 SROs in the schools. You know, most tragedies happen and there are changes to our system of government. We all know about Danvers, Massachusetts, the latest. We've all heard of Columbine. We've heard of Sandy Hook. An SRO is not going to be a police officer patrolling the hallways in full uniform ready to arrest somebody for not doing their homework on time. An SRO is somebody designed to work with a school psychologist and have specialized training. They're going to have training in cyberbullying. We all heard of the girl in Florida, terrible tragedy. They're going to work with mental health. With allergies, there's nut allergies, there's celiac disease, there's needs for EpiPens today. We have one nurse in a school, and if she's tied up or he's tied up on one side of the school, we'll have a second set of eyes. They're going to help with relationship building. They're going to be approachable. They're going to look for depression, teen suicide, which is an epidemic in our country today. They'll also be involved, obviously, with first aid, and they'll be there to help make sure that nothing escalates in the school. They'll deter situations from happening till more help can arrive. And ladies and gentlemen, the best time to put a school resource officer in a school is 5 minutes before you need one.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Same question to you, Mr. Moriarty. Do you plan on cutting the education budget, and if so, what would you cut?
No, we're not going to cut the education budget, but I will say this. It's awful funny that Republican candidate Vasel tell you he's going to give all that stuff, and he sent out a mailing saying that, complaining that our budget went up $2 million a year. The education budget alone this year went up 1.5. Okay? We put in capital improvements to the schools 1.7. We increased the expenditures to the schools from $3.4 million. I get it. The money's there. Nobody can sit up there and tell you they're going to do all this stuff for you, but then tell you they're not going to raise their taxes. Right? And as mayor, it's not up to me what goes on in that school. That's what we have a Board of Ed for. In the state statute, all we do as a council, and me as a mayor, appropriate the funds. Okay? It's up to the board how they spend it. Okay? And I'm not going to be one to sit here and tell the board what to do. That's their job. Okay? All we got to do is we got to fund them. And they know what they need. They submit their budget, and we give them as much as we can, but also keep the taxes for everybody in town on kind of a even keel. Most of that 1.5 that budget went up was more or less contractual. Right? Sometimes we can offset it due to some of our revenues. We have a lot of construction with permits coming in, money coming in like that. We're adding stuff onto the tax base. We have some stuff coming off that we gave tax credits to. Channel 3 and Burst will be coming in the future. But the whole thing is being able to balance that. And people sometimes don't understand that. You know, they want everything, but they don't want to pay for it. Right? That's our job to find that money and try to keep it so we don't put people on a burden more than what they are because of the economy the way it is right now. You know, he's up here flashing all kinds of numbers around, all kinds of things around, but you know what? How are you going to pay for it when you're telling people, I'm going to lower your taxes, but I'm going to give you everything in the world? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Third question. How high is all-day kindergarten on your list of priorities, and how soon do you see it becoming a reality for the entire town?
It's been high on my priority for a long time. You know, we went to a referendum twice, where we were going to add on to one referendum, would have been added on to West Hill and Stevie School. The problem is right now is space. We don't have the space for it. Okay? The second referendum, we were going to build a new elementary school, and would have been space for that. It was good that this year the board was able to figure something out to start a pilot program, and that's going to work out well because actually it's a trial period. We can kind of fix it as we go. By the end of the year, to know exactly what we're going to do to have a curriculum for an all-day type of kindergarten. We have something in the works right now with Trek wants to build a school in town at the Motor School Center. We're also in negotiations, maybe possibly, of adding classrooms onto that same building and sharing the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and the offices, and the library. So all we would have to pay for are classrooms. If we can make that work, and it's not up to me, because here again, it's what the board wants and what the board wants to do. It's like with the high school. I can sit up here and say, I want this in that high school. I want, the building committee wants this. Ultimately, it's the board's decision what happens there. And it's the same thing here with this. If the board supports putting them rooms on at the correct, classrooms on at the correct school there, then we'll open up space, and then us as a council will have to fund all-day kindergarten. It's long overdue.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Same question to you, Mr. Vasel. How high is all-day kindergarten on your list of priorities, and how soon do you see it becoming a reality for the entire town?
Okay, with the Common Core standards, which I'm sure you're all aware, the bar is raised even higher for all-day kindergarten. It's a top priority for my team, Team Henry. To become a reality, we need a plan, which the leadership of the current board has not brought to the table. There's been no input from the council, which is an example of they're not effectively working together. I believe in all-day kindergarten. I believe in it because we have to have 6 hours of lessons. We have to have a first grade level of lessons taught in the kindergarten level. 6 hours in 2.5 hours. Long term, we're going to work with CREC, as Mr. Moriarty suggested. But short term, this is what I've heard my Board of Ed discuss. And as mayor, I just want to say, I'm the one to make sure everybody gets along. I'm the one to make sure we don't have massive resignations on boards such as Public Building Commission, which is instrumental, and things such as schools, and perhaps all-day kindergarten. Short term, we're going to do portable classrooms. We're going to put the older kids in the portable classrooms to make room for the younger children. The Board of Ed is going to be charged with the task of developing a plan in the next 150 days to make sure that by next school year, all-day kindergarten is a reality townwide. As mayor, I'm going to make sure that it's funded. Every kindergarten student next year will have all-day kindergarten. After 8 years on the council, in the past 6 months, if I was the mayor right now, this would have more than likely already happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Next question, question number 4. The developments under construction on Brook Street could potentially add dozens, if not hundreds, of children into our elementary schools that are already at or close to capacity. How would you deal with this?
Okay, first of all, the past 3 years of projections in the school enrollment plan have been flat. In the 90s, we had an influx of students enrolled in school, and they're reaching the period right now where they're about to graduate. So with the numbers remaining very flat, as of right now, we don't see any influx. However, the existing space problems in the schools happened long before Brook Street. They need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed soon. We can't just keep kicking back and making believe they're not there. Any plan to adapt to school enrollment would include neighborhood schools. Neighborhood schools are going to stay right where they are. We're going to work with CREC, as Dr. Zito has been assigned the task already, on the proposal to develop the Mosier site for an intermediate school. And we're going to bring that to a reality. As mayor, I'm going to charge the Board of Ed with the task of working with him. And I'm going to make sure people work together and we don't have resignations. And we become a cohesive town of the board, the council, the Public Building Commission to make it a reality. You know, there's frustrations and challenges that remain after 8 years on the council. This is another thing that should have had a plan come to fruition by now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Same question to you, Mr. Moriarty.
Yeah, the amount of people or students coming to school has always been an issue, and it was the first issue we had to deal with when I got onto the council back 3 superintendents ago. Because when we first talked about expanding the schools and adding on to them and renovating and stuff, the enrollment, you know, we couldn't get a straight answer on it really, because we looked at 3 different scenarios or organizations that does the enrollment thing, and no matter who does it, it's a crystal ball. So it's something we're always going to deal with like that. But these space needs, the council and the board, some people that are on there now and some people that, you know, in the past, diligently looked at what we needed. We had, you know, schematic designs made for 2 different referendums, and the voters of Rocky Hill voted it down. To sit up here and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to put on portable classrooms, you know, here again, the voters of the town are going to have to vote on that. And maybe that's not what they want. The thing is, I think we need to do something where we can put a vote out there where everybody's going to benefit from it. You know, I talked about seniors stuff. If the seniors get something, I think they'll support the school. One of the problems is that you're kind of landlocked to Stevens and West Hill. We do have some small area there. I mean, the area where you can add on to Stevens basically is where we got the portables now. Right? Because when you add on, you can add parking and stuff like that. But the way everybody's looking at it right now, the board's trying to tackle this. They know what the people want, I know what the people want, and I think we're gonna get them there for minimal cost, but it's gonna cost you. Right? I'm not gonna sit up here and say, we're gonna do it without lowering taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Question 5 to you. Our schools need a capital improvement plan. What is yours, and how will you get it approved and implemented?
Well, capital improvement was a number one priority on this year's budget for me. We increased the capital improvement in the schools by 74%. We've got the money in there for the sprinklers. Some of my colleagues on my own side wanted to go out to bond for that, and I didn't want to do that. That money is now in the budget, and that money's not going anywhere. It's going to stay in that budget, and we will keep chipping away at it. You know, one of the problems here, along with all of these referendums that failed, is we kept saying, we'll hold off, we'll fix that when we do the school over once the referendum passes. Well, that didn't happen. So now we went to Plan B. We're going to have to put this money into the capital improvement plan. Right? We know we're going to have to look at rooftop units at West Hill. We know we're going to look at air conditioning at the middle school. And that's another problem that we grew out of like 20 years ago when the referendum went out for building the new high school, the additions to Griswold Junior High. Because what happened is it took 3 referendums to get that to where the taxpayers would vote for it. But how they did that was they pulled stuff out, and now we're paying for it. You know, they kept lowering the number, and the only way you're going to do that is to remove stuff from the project. So it's pulling out air conditioning, pulling out sprinklers, things like that. Now ultimately, we're the ones facing with it. So thank God this time when the high school went out, it passed, we have the money there, that'll get going. And we'll keep chipping away at the other stuff. You know, hopefully the revenue in the town is increased. You know, we have some new businesses coming to town, and you know, there's buildings starting to go on, and there's other ways that, you know, maybe we can generate some revenue. But we're just going to have to keep doing it. You know, we've done more in 6 months in this budget than they've ever done as far as capital improvements. And like I said, between the Board of Education going up 1.4 and 1.7 for capital improvements, we still only increased the budget by $2 million. So we moved money from other spots. We did the right thing. There was a minimal increase, yeah, but that's what it's going to cost. These minimal increases are going to have to keep happening so we can keep doing this stuff. This stuff doesn't get done for nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Mr. Vasel, same question to you. Our schools need a capital improvement plan. What is yours, and how will it get approved and implemented?
Okay, thank you. I'm actually glad you touched on this subject so we can talk about where we're going to get the money. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a 4-year degree, a Bachelor of Science in Finance. This is what I do. I find places and ways to save money. I specialize in company acquisition. Let's say the owner of Pizza Hut came into my office and said, I want to buy every Domino's in Connecticut. We need $55 million. My specialty was to go long-term costs, short-term costs, stock splits, dividends, things of this nature to find money. This is what I do. First thing I would do is I would cut down on some of the legal fees we're going through. We are going through incredible amounts of legal fees in this town. Monies that could be used for education instead of fighting hard-working, law-abiding people. The next thing that we need to do is we need to talk about the sprinklers. The sprinklers in the schools, it was a $1.2 million line item in the budget for the West Hill sprinklers. I'm going to redefine this, and I'm going to leave it as a line item on the budget. It's already there. It will not raise your taxes one bit. It's already in this year's budget. I'm going to redefine it and charge the Board of Education with the task of using it for capital improvement projects for the school. Obviously, finance for the schools is one of the biggest issues, as many of our buildings, including our schools and our roads, are deteriorating around us. Look at Mosier's closing because of failure to adequately fund. High school, risk of losing accreditation because it wasn't adequately funded. As mayor, I'm going to make sure Next year, the Stevens sprinklers are in. This year was the West Hill sprinklers. The year after that, the AC in the Griswold building is going to be installed. That is all going to happen. I'm going to look into consolidating the board and the town health care. It has projections of significant annual savings per year for the last 2 years. It was brought by the Board of Education chairman to the town council and never acted on by the council majority. You know, we've been in violation of the sprinklers, which should have been funded and completed, as I said before, for the past 8 years. And now the solution to the Stevens School is to put some type of window that opens in the library as a solution to sprinklers. As a 15-year firefighter, I personally don't understand it. What if the fire is in the library? How do you get the kids out? How do you get children down there that are in wheelchairs, in crutches? How do you line up hundreds of kids in the library and tell them just to sit quietly and wait their turn? We're going to get you out through a window. This is another thing, ladies and gentlemen, that would have been completed already, and it will be completed if I'm your mayor. Thank you.
Please hold your applause to the end of the forum. Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Question number 6. What are your thoughts on the town possibly adopting a restructured school district by making the schools K-2 and 3-5 models, or 3rd to 5th?
Is that the final question, or no?
That is the question, yes.
Oh, no, is that the final, or are you?
No, we have 2 more.
Oh, okay. I didn't know last time you just did so many.
Yeah.
The restructuring of the school districts, that's a task for the Board of Education. However, in meeting with my team, Team Henry, I do support a plan to keep neighborhood schools open for K-3. The superintendent, Dr. Zito, has been given the task of entering into an agreement or negotiating with CREC on the Mosier site, as we've discussed earlier. As mayor, I will take the lead. I'll make sure that the agreement is facilitated, and it's the responsibility of the mayor to make sure that it moves forward. This is something that should have happened because the overcrowding has been going on for years. It's not something that happened recently, and it's not because of any recent projects. You know, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to end the excuse-making and foot-dragging and oppositional politics. You need a Board of Ed to reframe the conversation and introduce a new era of educational transformation and success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Mr. Moriarty, what are your thoughts on the town possibly adopting a restructured school district by making the schools K-2 and 3rd through 5th?
Well, I think that's a great idea, and that's where a lot of towns have already gone. My brother Jim, sitting in the audience here, who's on the board right now, is the principal of the school of that system. Is a favorite. That's a new way to do things. Another thing we'll do, it'll bring these kids in town together at a younger age rather than come together at junior high level. Okay? They will be able to grow off of each other. We have different ethnic groups in town, live in different areas, we'll be able to come together and be the young community that they should be, as we are as community, as adults. This way here, everybody will be getting the same thing. I know there's some things at West Hill that the kids get up there that they don't get at Stevens. Some things at Stevens that they don't get at West Hill. Now everybody will be getting the same thing. It's more fair to the kids. They deserve that. I know sometimes it may be an inconvenience depending upon where you live in town, and sometimes people don't like change and this and that. But the bottom line is, it's our moral obligation to make sure these kids get what they're supposed to get. And through redistricting and putting them together, I think the kids are going to grow better. They'll grow off of each other. I think they'll make better friendships. It's easier to be friends, make friends with kids at a younger age than it is at the junior high level. There's a lot of peer pressure out there getting younger age. They're talking about this cyberbullying and this bullying. I would not want to be a kid growing up nowadays. It's not easy. It's not easy. But that's the thing in the future. I mean, now a lot of stuff, there's a lot of technology coming to the schools. We're going to teach differently. It's not the way it was when I was there. It's not the way it was 10 years ago. You know, when you got education going on, throughout the state, throughout this country, throughout this world. You think we would have got it by now, but it keeps changing. Because the needs of what we have for these kids going into college changes, and we have to stay up with that. Those of you that have kids in school, a lot of kids now, it's a 5-year program in college. It's not more 4 years. A lot of them change their majors when they're doing there. You know, attending the graduation this year, I was amazed how many kids walked off that stage, honor students. That's an acclamation to the teachers up there. Our test scores are up. And the test scores are up because we funded the education the way we should have. The Board of Ed did their job. The teachers did their job. You as parents did your job. And most of all, those scores are what they are because the students did their job. They're the ones that take that test. They're the ones that got those scores. And they should be commended. Now, everybody says it's all about money, what we spend. Money does have a lot to do with it, but it's not everything. It's the passion for the teachers that we have in town. It's the passion of the paralegals that help out here. It's what people do after school, these summer skate programs during the summer. Right? The system is not broken like somebody's claiming it is. Are we perfect? No, we're not perfect. None of us are. The system's not perfect, but we can make it better. If we come together as a community and we work hard, we will get to where we want to get. We've tried other avenues, like I said, in the referendum. Now we've got to find another way to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. We have 2 more questions. First of those 2 questions are, what are your thoughts on the integration of technology into our schools?
Well, technology is it. We're all there. You know, who would have thought 10, 15 years ago what it would be right now? The problem with it, though, if we buy the latest and greatest today, 2 years, it's outdated. All right? These companies come in, they say they got the best, you listen to them, you try it. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. That's also going to change how we do the seating and stuff in school. Right now we're going to have docking stations for a lot of these iPods, all right, for these laptops in the high school. The one good thing is we'll get the 40 pounds of books out of the back of that backpack so these kids aren't killing themselves walking to school. You know, anytime I have a problem with a phone, all I got to do is find a 10-year-old kid to show me what to do with it. It's amazing what this is. But is it really going to work? I think it is. These smart boards, it's more interactive. The kids get into it. You know, they're on a computer at home at an early age. I mean, they're way ahead of the game before they even step foot in that school. Because they sit there, they watch an older brother and older sister, what they're doing. These electronic games. Sometimes it's a little too much with electronic games, but, you know, it's something to say how much kids do at home. It's a wave of the future, and we have to stay up with technology. We have to be able to compete with the rest of the world, not just the kids in this country. It's the rest of the world. Jobs are global now. They come from all over, taking our jobs. Right? Our children having to leave the country to go elsewhere. The only problem with technology is it took half the jobs. You bought one cell phone now, that should be 20 things that you bought. That was 20 people in the store selling that product. 10 guys driving that product to there. Technology is great, but it's really going to hurt us as far as we talk about jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Mr. Vasel, same question to you. What are your thoughts on the integration of technology in our schools?
I think technology is extremely important, and it definitely needs to be a part of the learning experience. You know, the reason I got involved in running for mayor is that politicians all too often think of winning the next election. From the beginning, my goal is a win for the next generation. I want to make sure that our children are smarter and better adapted to meet society and the jobs that they need to get. We have underperforming labor forces in society. We have high unemployment rates in society. All when kids meet the labor force, these are things that they're confronted with. You know, if we're to accomplish anything I have outlined so far tonight, we will still have failed if we do not receive, or if we do not create educational excellence. It's paramount to our kids surviving. We cannot afford to have conversations and drag our feet on this topic. We must act, and we must act now. Everything today is about computers. Everything in the school system is about the STEM requirements. Once again, the science, technology, engineering, and math requirements. I'll be sure there is appropriate funding for technology in the budget, because it does keep on changing. It's constantly changing. How often have you had a problem with your computer and it's already outdated? I'm going to make sure our science labs are properly funded. Our robotics is properly funded. I'm also going to make sure our elementary schools have ample computers and tablets. The kids at home play on iPads, they play on Kindles, and they play on their computers. They require the same type of educational tools to expand their learning process in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Final question. What are your feelings on placing school resource officers in the schools? Do you support it? And please do not base your answers on the Secure Watch 24 report.
Wow. I guess I wasted half of my 2 minutes before. School resource officers, something I absolutely support. Once again, I'm not talking about uniformed police officers arresting kids for being late with their homework. I'm talking about people with specialized training. Specialized training to work with cyberbullying. We saw the teenager once again who died in Florida. To act as role models, relationship builders with the children, looking out for depression, teen suicide, which is at epidemic levels in the United States today. Allergy awareness, nut allergies, celiac disease. I mean, we have milk allergies. We have allergies today that, quite frankly, I had never heard of. When I was in school, it was milk allergies. That was like the biggest thing we had. We have allergies that require EpiPens within minutes. If we have one nurse and we have several kids with allergies on different sides of the schools, there's a great chance they're going to be going into shock if they don't get their EpiPen on time. There's mental health issues. We all saw Sandy Hook, and we all know what happened. Very tragic. Obviously, there would be first aid that they could administer, if so needed. You know, ladies and gentlemen, people don't commit crimes because there's an officer in front of them. It just doesn't happen. I've never seen anybody commit crimes because there's too many police around. That's just not how it works. People commit crimes, people get out of line when there's nobody around watching them. If we go forward with school resource officers, hopefully this will keep us from having to have uniformed officers in schools, something I would really like to try and avoid. These officers, the school resource officers, are there to deter or delay situations from escalating till more help can arrive. He's going to have a lookout. Is little Johnny getting multiple suspensions? Why is that happening? Is Jane having multiple detentions? What's going on? Somebody to keep an eye on and speak with the therapist in the school and say, we need to keep an eye on this person. This is somebody who's having problems, and we need to see if we can help. And finally, the school resource officers, we will continue to look to state and federal grants to fund up to 100% of the school resource officers' positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasel. Same question to you, Mr. Moriarty. What are your feelings on placing school resource officers in the schools? Do you support it? Please don't base your answers on the Secure Watch 24 report.
That's a tough question. We need people in these buildings to protect these kids. Is it a school resource officer? I don't know. There's other ways of doing it. Personally, I'm not a fan of having weapons in the school. And that's where I have an issue with this. As what happened down there in the Navy base, when that gentleman shot his last round, he shot the officer with a gun, and then took that gun and killed 5 more people. Something like that bothers me. School is supposed to be a place for children to relax, be comfortable, and get educated. You know, we got to look at the security and stuff, and we're going to do the best we can with what we have in the budget this year and add more next year. But no matter what we do, I cannot stand up here and to tell you that your kids are going to be safe. Would we put a school resource officer in there or not? Because with that building, the amount of doors we have in there, that we have to have egress for people in and out, are we not going to let kids go out on the playground and play like they should? Are we, every one of you, going to drive in school so you don't have to get on the school bus? You can't tell me you can protect your kids in your own house. What happened in Sandy Hook was tragic, and hopefully it never happens again. At Columbine, there was 2 officers in that building when it happened. What happened out in Nevada? It happened in the playground. There was a resource officer in that school. I don't think they would have been able to stop that. What happened up in Mass was done with a knife. Took her out into the woods. How he got her out there, I don't know. I heard some stories about she asked him to stay after school, whatever. But it's not the job of the school resource officer to be the school psychologist, the school nurse, and everything else. We have them people in place already. One thing I will agree with Henry, when I went to school, people weren't allergic to peanut butter, I'll tell you that. Nowadays, it's unbelievable. You know, the allergies out there with kids, you know, schools have to do more and more, these nurses have to do more and more. And it gets harder and harder. But it's not the job of the school resource officer to get into these kids' heads and tell them what they got to do. That's what the professionals from that field, that's their job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Now that ends the question part of the forum. Each candidate will introduce the candidates of their party from the Town Council and Board of Education. Mr. Moriarty.
First of all, I want to say to one of our members of the Town Council is not here, Joe Kohanek. His mother passed away this weekend and the funeral was today, so please keep the Kohanek family in your prayers. Joe's a longtime friend of me. He was actually a neighbor of mine, the ex-chief of the fire department. We also have Bill McDonald, came onto the council from my spot when I moved up. Bill has been on the Board of Ed, very active in town with different organizations, groups raising money for the different referendums along with myself. We also have our long farm friend over there, Barbara Cirillo, who's very proud of that. You keep open space and farmland preservation to lower your taxes, so we don't have developments coming in, so that we have to, you know, put more money into these schools. We have 2 new people come to the council this year. Right? If people want change, we're doing it. Okay? We have Alan Mohlers, retired aerospace engineer, chairman of planning and zoning. Very intelligent person. He's a tactician, I call him. He knows how to do stuff. He's like that quiet, silent sub. And then another young gentleman that I'm very proud of coming to the council, Kevin Clemens. Another engineer that works for DEEP, that brings a lot to the table, has an economic background. I would appoint him to economic development. He's got a degree in that. It's right up his alley. Bill McDonald, finance, right up his alley. Robert Cirillo, farms. Alan will be the government operations, Joe Kohanek, public safety. That's where he comes from. These are the people for there. For the Board of Ed, we have long-term board members. Ralph Kohler, our chair, comes from an education background, working full-time nurse, but works for education now in the hospitals. Skip Brevard, professor down at Middlesex Community College, and also teaches on their eyes and glasses and everything. We also have John Bedlack, another retired educator, and also a police officer in Rocky Hill here for a number of years also. And then Maria, excuse me, all right, a mother of young kids in school, finance background. And last, my brother Jim Moriarty, special education major, assistant principal, and now he works for special education as a consultant with the state of Connecticut. A very diverse Board of Ed, brings a lot to the table. Thank you.
You can applaud now. Thank you, Mr. Moriarty and Mr. Vasel. If you'd like to introduce your party.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the PTO. I want to thank Tim, Joe Wenzel, and all of you for showing up tonight. I appreciate your time and your concern about the school system. Very, very important. As far as our council, first we have Nadine Bell. Nadine works in a small business. She works in accounting. She understands what it's like to balance a budget. She understands what it's like to have so much money come in every month and only spend that amount. It's great as a small business owner. You can't spend more than you're taking in. Next, we have Kathy Vargas. Kathy Vargas works in small business. She works in finance. Once again, she always has her eye on the dollar. She can tell you where every penny was spent in the town. She's very, very good at it. Frank Zepps, long time on the council, works in a large business, very good negotiator, and very good at making sure that things are spent properly in town. We have Meg Casasanta, also works in a small business, former council member in Newington, Board of Education member too, a great asset to our team, and a great, great person for the town. Finally, we have Guy Drapeau, CPA, works at Trinity College, in charge of finance, in the college, in the buildings, in building the buildings. Major asset, something we could use during the Rocky Hill rebuilding process of the high school. Board of Ed, we have Brian Dillon, engineer. You all know Brian. Very, very cool, calm, and collected guy. Great advice. Excellent for the Board of Education. Worked with him for years on planning and zoning. Frank Morse works for a utility company. Been on Board of Education. Worked with him on planning and zoning. Always shows up to the meetings. Always conscientious. Always looking out for the bottom dollar to make sure it's spent properly. Dilip Desai, most recently, worked for the government. Great asset, and he brings great diversity to Team Henry. He's able to show us new things and new ways and help us diversify where we're headed in our education system. Jennifer Allison, an attorney, a mom. Excellent, excellent person. I hope you all have the chance to meet her tonight. Very, very intelligent. She knows how to compromise, and she knows how to negotiate. Great asset to our team. Finally, we have Danielle Plona, a degree in education, special education teacher. They both came forward because of stay accredited in the Rocky Hill High School. Referendum that failed twice. These two became part of a grassroots effort that said education is much too important to leave to politicians. They got involved and the referendum passed. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we've stood here tonight, or sat here actually. You said stood. We thought we were standing for a second. As we sit here tonight in this room, we talk about education, we talk about the buildings, we talk about our infrastructure. I ask of you, please give me and Team Henry 2 years, and in the next 2 years, I promise you, you will see results. Ladies and gentlemen, please vote November 5th. Vote Row A. Thank you again. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I'd like to thank the PTOs, Nikki, Lona, and Joseph for putting this on. I'd like to thank the candidates for being here, you for being in attendance. So everyone's clear, this is taped by the Rocky Hill Community TV. It'll be on channel 14 multiple times, AT&T channel 99, and it'll be on their website, rhctv.org. And now that it's concluded, the candidates will be sitting around for a little while and answering any questions you have. So, thank you.